All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's session on today's webinar on AI um, assisted accelerated learning design. I'm going to share my screen. Rob, if you can confirm that we are able to see my screen. Can you see that?
Yes,
Excellent. Okay. And do we need to record? Are we recording?
recording.
Okay. Perfect. Welcome everybody to our session on AI accelerated learning design. I'm Greg Chappett, and I am Director of Learning Design Innovation here at Gutenberg. My job at Gutenberg is to be a champion for all things learning design in our products, and especially championing the application of learning design principles across GT's digital learning products. I have a pretty extensive background in educational publishing. I started as an acquisitions editor at HarperCollins, and worked in an editorial capacity for the first 10 years of my career, and then switched over into a digital learning design role at Wiley in their higher ed division, and then have been at GT for about 2 years now in my current role. And joining me today is Rob Thomas. Rob is Director of Professional Services at Gutenberg. He also has extensive background in educational publishing, most recently at Pearson. And Rob leads multifaceted teams here at GT and solves a lot of problems. Rob will be uh, sort of in the background during the initial part of this discussion, but we'll have about 15 minutes, I think, at the end dedicated to Q&A, and Rob is going to help me answer questions then. So, why are we here today? So we're hearing the sort of the reality of where we are today with online course development is that we know it takes a long time. Traditional course development takes around 8 weeks or more. I'm not sure if that's your experience, but that is what we're hearing from our customers. Not only is course design and development taking a long time, but the content that is and the courses are not really successful. There are issues with engagement. I think engagement is one thing we hear most about from from our customers. Um, our content, our courses are not being completed. The levels of satisfaction are not high with our users. Um, they feel like mountains of static materials. They feel like homework. They don't feel like meaningful learning. Um, a number of our customers have an issue with sort of having stacks and heavy investments in static content. So PDFs, PowerPoints, static training materials that are not optimized for digital delivery, that don't work well in digital delivery, and therefore are contributing to this issue with engagement and with completion rates and quality. Um, and so, with our research, we have some numbers to back up these findings. We are hearing that 50 to 80 development hours per hour of e-learning content is a typical number. That's how we're coming up with that 8 weeks or more figure for course development. Completion rates are as low as 20%. Uh, Satisfaction rates are low as well, and engagement rates are as low as 49%. At the same time, we're talking to our customers about AI, and we're hearing from our customers, a strong interest in AI and its capacity for saving time. It's a very enticing promise of if AI can generate courses for you or generate content for you. Um, But at the same time, we're hearing excitement about the potential for saving time. We're also hearing a lot of skepticism about the quality of AI generated content. And one of our customers even told us that the tools they've used, it requires more time to when they use AI because than it would if they had just started from scratch because the quality of the content is so poor. It's not based on learning science. It needs so much work that they feel like it would have been better to start from scratch. So some of the things we're hearing are how do I ensure AI generated content is truly engaging, is truly based on learning science? I need to maximize my existing content investments, my sort of stacks of digital materials. I've already invested heavily in this content. How do I use it? How do I turn it into something more engaging or better quality that will result in better completion rates and better engagement rates? The AI tools I've used lack pedagogical grounding. The content looks like everybody else's. And how do I transform at scale my static content with AI while ensuring quality? These are, things that we've heard and discussed with our customers. I don't know if they are things that resonate with you folks as well. But at GT, solving um, time frame issues, solving workflow issues is sort of in our DNA. It's something we've been doing since the company was founded in 2009. So we're not coming at this challenge sort of new. We have a deep history and a deep knowledge of workflow and how to improve workflows, how to save time, and how to work with our customers to improve their workflows and save time and money. Um, the company was originally founded as a K-12 publisher, so our background is as a publisher. And we were facing challenges, or the company was facing challenges about managing print and digital from single workflows. And we solved this issue for our own company by developing a patented single source authoring technology. And that's been sort of the main offering from GT over the years has been helping publishers and mainly publishers, educational publishers, manage their educational content across print and digital. Today, we are like, in the last 2 years, everything has been changing, and we are reinventing ourselves as an AI-driven education company. And so, what we're going to look at today and talk about today is how we're changing our product and how with AI and the AI tools that we've developed and the way that we're excited to share how we can bring AI into the equation and help solve your problems with AI. So back to sort of the problem at hand. We believe that we've created a tool that will help transform existing static content investments into interactive, engaging e-learning modules that are based on learning science. So we will solve a time problem and we'll cut the time frames down. What we're thinking and saying is that we can cut from 8 weeks to 2 weeks, and we'll sort of talk about what that means later in the presentation. But also ensure that the content that's generated is high quality and engaging and based on learning science. And we think that's what differentiates our AI tool set from what we're seeing from a lot of the other companies using AI. So as I said earlier, we'll have time for Q&A at the end of the session. So if you have questions along the way, if you could add them to the chat. Rob will be monitoring the chat. I don't have access to it while I'm presenting, but just please sort of add questions there, and we'll go through all the questions at the end of the session. Um, but today's presentation is divided into two key components. We're going to look at our pedagogical templates. So if the question is sort of how do we ensure high quality, engaging content from our AI, the answer is our pedagogical templates. We'll look at what those are, and we'll look at how we use learning science to ensure that our templates are optimized for digital learning, effective, et cetera. And then we'll look at how the templates come together with our AI course builder tool and show how the course builder is a tool that you can use to transform static content investments into modular interactive e-learning using our templates. And then some time for the Q&A at the end. So starting with our pedagogical templates. This is what we like to call sort of content that is designed as sort of walls of paragraphs. I don't know if this looks familiar to you, but it's what a lot of the sort of legacy content, static content looks like that our customers bring to us. Walls of paragraphs broken up into subheadings. This is content that works very well on printed pages. This is sort of a book content. It's long form reading. It's static. It works great on the printed page, but it's not optimized for digital delivery. Digital delivery, you would expect to have more modular organization of content. You would expect to have interactivity like what we're showing here. So instead of sort of a read-only passive learning experience, I think users who are used to interacting with content online expect interactivity. They expect to be able to do something with the content, whether that's sort of flipping cards like what we're showing, or engaging with practice quizzes. Our templates will help transition from passive read-only style of content to what we call sort of a read a little, do a little style of content, where there's some reading, but also a lot of doing. Every page has something for you to do, something for the learner to click on, to dig deeper, to access, etc. So this tool is very much about bringing content that looks like this and transforming it into modular e-learning with activities that looks like this. And this is done through our pedagogical templates. Our pedagogical templates are a system of structures that we've created. I lead a team of learning designers at GT, and real humans, real people have designed all of these text structures, all of these content structures. They shape the way that the content appears to learners, the pacing, the flow, the types. These are all something that we've been designing and building internally for much of the past year. And everything that we've designed is based on learning science. We'll talk a little bit about what we mean by that, and how our templates reflect learning design principles. It's a scalable, flexible system. So regardless of what kind of content you have, whether it's, compliance training or medical or, leadership or whatever, and within the either the academic or corporate training world, the idea is that our templates are very flexible. They can be applied and work equally well across different domains and subject areas. But also, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, we can work with customers to design custom templates as well. So if there's something in our out-of-the-box templates that doesn't fit perfectly, we can help and create custom templates for you as well. So the most granular part of our template system is what we're calling blocks. These are sort of all of the content that our AI generates. It flows into blocks, and blocks are the most granular component. They are research-backed pedagogical structures. Um, they reflect the way, if I were an instructor presenting or talking about and trying to explain a topic, these are the sort of structures that I would use to explain. Introductory blocks that engage learners, activate prior knowledge, establish context. Categorical blocks present information organized by topics, subtopics, or categories within a larger subject area. Step-by-step blocks are explanations of how to do something or how something works. Compare and contrast blocks examine similarities and differences between topics to help explain another topic. Problem and solution blocks identify challenges, present corresponding resolutions to those challenges. We have a whole sort of range of blocks that reflect underlying text structures. These are the ways that any writer or teacher would explain something. They would sort of utilize these different text structures. They exist, within educational content already. What we're doing with our block templates is using AI to scan and sort of parse the content, the source content, and find those text structures, and then pair those text structures with these pre-designed interactions. And so what we're seeing here is an example of a category block, which is taking an explanation of different styles of baseball around the world, and we've designed this interaction with flip cards, so you can it's sort of presented in an interactive format with an attractive layout. And as a learner, I can dig deeper and sort of access both the topic level and the subtopic level of information. Where am I here? There. Step-by-step block is a block that is appropriate for procedural explanations. So explanations that describe how to do something or how something works. And what we've done here is utilize a carousel interaction to express that explanation. So we think this is a good learning design. It breaks apart, it segments the information into these small chunks that you can click through and interact with. And it's a great fit for procedural sort of stepped in information. This is a compare and contrast block. It highlights similarities and differences, and it uses an accordion format. So I can dig sort of deeper into this hierarchical information. There's a topic and a subtopic, and I can open both and sort of compare and contrast these two things. We think this is a good use of interactivity to express a compare and contrast explanation. We've designed a whole range of what we're calling mini game blocks. And mini games are a way of sort of introducing a layer of gamification into the content. This is showing it's essentially a true false quiz, but we've designed it as sort of like a swipeable Tinder style quiz. So if it's correct, you swipe left. If it's incorrect, you swipe right. And it's a way of providing practice and adding a layer of practice into the content but doing so in a way that is, I think more engaging. It looks more like the sort of apps that students use and encounter, in other domains that aren't educational, but also adding a practice component. It provides feedback. You get results, you get incorrect or correct feedback, but you get it in this sort of fun game-like, a gamified way. This is another example of a mini game, sort of a multiple choice quiz. But again, you get it. Uh, it's a way of avoiding just sort of another multiple choice quiz or multiple choice knowledge check quiz. It's a different way of presenting practice. But that said, we do have more traditional practice quizzes, and blocks for that. So this is a more traditional question-based quiz, uh, with feedback. There's correct and incorrect answer feedback. There's explanations, uh, and uh, and you can sort of see your progress along the way. You get feedback on the individual question level, and then at the end you get whole quiz level feedback. So we've sort of pre-designed the feedback experiences, and it's all comes sort of packaged in the block template. We've also designed structural aspects. So this is a cover image, or a cover slide. Um, This is a before and after block. So this is utilizing a sort of card-based layout to show, make a comparison. So what might in the source content be a paragraph explanation. This is sort of breaking out that paragraph and showing it in a more visual, showing the information in a more visual way that you can easily scan back and forth and compare. This is a scenario. So we have blocks, pre-created blocks that are sort of in this dialogue format where we're introducing a scenario, a real world application. Um, we have characters, and the characters are talking to each other and sort of presenting a scenario, and then asking the learner to make a choice, to make a decision. And then we have also, regular sort of narrative blocks, and that combine, sort of traditional text and images. These and we just showed sort of a preview of some of the block types, but these are all AI enabled. So our AI, and we'll see this when we look at our course builder, has all of this, flows the source content into all of these different block types. So and so what we're trying to do here from a learning design perspective is ensure that the learning experiences are built on active learning. So we specialize in activity-based content design, which means, and what does that mean? It means that we work with our customers to transform passive content experiences, sort of these read-only experiences, into interactive experiences. We hear a lot about issues with engagement, and we feel this is a good way to close the engagement gap, to create content experiences that feel more like apps and less like homework. So some of the ways that we do this with our blocks is our mini games. We have designing a range of experiential activities, that are scenario-based activities with branching. These will be ready a bit later this fall, so we don't have any show and tell for these yet. Uh, Lots of practice opportunities. Um, as we were just seeing, we incorporate content interactions, flip cards, tabs, accordions, carousels, as much as possible so that the learner is required to do something on every page, not just sort of passively read. And then also our system supports embedding outside multimedia, so video, audio, HTML5 interactions that you might develop, with your own tools, you can easily bring into our CMS and add to your content. So, um, so we focus on active learning, but at the same time, all of our design work is guided by four learning design pillars, of which active learning is one of them. But uh, we believe that we've developed this system. It's sort of a checklist that we all use internally, and it keeps us honest and it keeps us grounded in learning science principles. All the design decisions that we make. So the four pillars are as follows. Everything should have a clear, purposeful structure. We organize content logically from basic to advanced concepts. There are transparent learning pathways. We believe in well-structured educational experiences. Um, Active learning is another pillar. So rather than passive consumption, we design interactive content with meaningful engagement strategies. It promotes active participation. So learners engage through meaningful interactions rather than just passive reading. Practice and feedback. So we believe that practice is critically important for learning. And we've designed in our blocks a number of different sort of varied practice opportunities from our learning activities to practice quizzes. All of them provide feedback. Feedback is a critical part of practice, opportunities for reflection, etc. And then lastly, I think you'll see that all of our content is designed very intuitively. So it's a big problem if the UX UI design gets in the way of the learning content. So we work closely with our UX UI designers to make sure that all of our content experience are super intuitive. We don't want to get in the way of content. Content should come first. Um, we will provide as a handout and follow up more documentation on our four learning pillars. There's sort of two levels to it. There's our, sort of the four pillars of structure, uh, activity and engagement, practice, and intuitive user experience. And from there, there's also sort of subcategories where we've organized learning design principles within these categories. So if we talk about, for example, a clear, purposeful structure, we have we've collected and sort of collated learning design principles that are related to content organization and hierarchy, design standards, learning paths, adaptive learning design. Um, when we talk about learning design principles, here are a few examples. So when we uh, design our templates, as we said, are very much about uh, emphasizing activity, and we believe that's a critically important part of the types of learning experiences that we want to support. Well, we know from learning science that that is a good foundation for learning design for a content experience. Excuse me. Because we creating pauses, for example, is a design principle. It's a good idea in your design to break up content. So instead of having long, walls of paragraphs like we saw in that first example, it's a best practice to break up into chunks, to allow learners to process information in manageable chunks, to create pauses naturally in the flow of content. And the content that we create, you'll see, is modular. It's sort of chunk by chunk, and that's by design. Um, Practice. We want to offer lots of opportunities for immediate practice through varied contexts, different ways of practicing. So that's why we have learning activities that are sort of more gamified, and then we have more traditional practice quizzes. We want to reinforce learning often and through varied styles of practice. I think there's a lot to say just about making learners do something active, making learners click on things within a content experience, rather than allowing them to just sort of passively read through content. I think that and there is a benefit from a learning science perspective just to be prompting learners to click on things, digging deeper, shifting through content screens. I think that that is, it's a simple interactions, but it promotes active studying. And I think it helps solve this problem of sort of passive reading online. So these are examples of some of the learning design principles that have informed our template design. Our blocks help focus attention. So we're drawing attention to important material by introducing interactivity, for example. So our carousels, sort of call out important procedural information and draw attention to it by making it interactive. Um, and also through introducing these different block types, there's opportunities to provide different perspectives, different examples, etc. So there's a solid learning science foundation to what we're doing. And we have a system through our four pillars that I think sort of ensures that the decisions we're making are grounded in learning science and can be mapped to specific learning design principles like this. So as follow-up, we'll provide a handout on our four principles. But so so the our learning design, our block templates are sort of, as we said before, are the most granular level of our template design. Think of it sort of as a scattered Lego pieces sort of on a table or something like this. And then, but that's just one level in our template design. So from the most granular level, we assemble the blocks into pages. So in our template system, we pre-designed a number of different page types by assembling our Lego pieces or blocks into specific sequences and structures. So page types like cover pages, like opener pages, practice pages, different, a wide variety of instruction pages. These are all sort of pre-designed and part of our template system. Um, Pages are assembled then into modules, which are also pre-designed, and we'll come back in a bit to some of the different types of modules that we support in our template system. And then modules are typically in our system. I know that everybody, or depending on what system you use, there's often a different definition of what modules are. In our system, we're talking about sort of 15 to 20-minute blocks of learning. But those modules can be assembled into much longer units. So you can have, our template system supports everything from micro learning, less than 20 minutes up to semester-long courses, hours, weeks, or more. It's very flexible, but by design, it starts with blocks. Blocks are assembled into pages. Pages are assembled into modules, and modules are assembled into courses. And so this is a framework that we've developed that we think is very flexible. That's the idea, is that it can support a range of different durations of different content types, etc. So again, think of blocks as sort of the Lego pieces for learning in our architecture. Pages are more focused learning segments that combine multiple blocks. And then modules are sort of the self-contained units that are 15 to 20 minutes in length that can be then also combined into bigger units, courses, semesters, whatever you would want to call it. And we are at work right now developing a whole templates library. So for these are frameworks that are AI, that are plugged into our AI, and we'll sort of see what this looks like when we look at our AI tool. But we've developed and designed some out-of-the-box templates, like foundations templates, which are introductions, which are appropriate for novice learners. They provide introductory information in a clear, accessible format. Practice templates, which are focus on providing a variety of practice opportunities. So if you provide source content, it will develop a varied set of quizzes based on the source content. Micro-learning templates, which are more focused than foundations templates. They typically focus on one learning objective at a time. They deliver sort of targeted just-in-time learning content. We have evaluation templates that are sort of create scored testing. Experiential templates, which are about focusing on applied scenario-based activities. They begin with a real-world situation and then sort of back up into instructional content from that scenario. We have challenge first. We have a variety of different template types that we're in the process of developing and building out into a library. But what we'll focus on today is our AI course builder, and switch over a bit into into a demo mode. So the course builder is our exciting new tool that it utilizes the pedagogical templates that we've just looked at. And it's a way for users to transform existing content. So whether it's document-based content or PDFs or PowerPoints, into interactive modular e-learning that looks like that's flowed into our pedagogical templates and looks like that attractive, interactive, activity-based modular e-learning like what we've been looking at. They and so the promise here is that what takes instructional design teams weeks can now take minutes to create, but then more time to edit in our tool, and we'll see what we mean by that. So how does our AI builder, course builder work? First, you choose your template type. So we've covered a little bit about templates. We'll see what those look like in the system. Then the AI generates content. You review the content outline, and then you go ahead and generate the content. And then you pull that content into the CMS and continue to edit it in the CMS. And from the CMS, you can publish, distribute anywhere. Our AI course builder, as we just said, it handles a variety of transformation use cases. So whether you're starting with a book content or article content, video, audio clips, blogs, we support all of these are supported in our system and transform into our template-based learning like what we're seeing here. And from here, I'll do a quick demo. So I'm going to show an example of some source content that we used. So this is book content on time management. So you can see that this is your typical walls of paragraph content. It works very well in the printed format, but this is not great experientially in a digital delivery format. We would want, and I think users would expect there to be interactions, to have a more modular um, uh, organization, not just have sort of walls of paragraphs like what we're seeing here. So if this is the starting point, um, on Thriving on the Night Shift, it's a guide for nurses who are new to working on the night shift. And we provided source content that looks very similar to this. It's book-based content, it's walls of paragraphs. And as a user, what you would do here enter is first select a template. This particular course uses the Foundations template, which is designed for novice learners. It is, very basic 20 minutes group of learning content that's organized clearly. It uses basic interactions, it uses a lot of practice. And again, it's designed for introducing new content to novice learners. As a user, you would enter the title, you would enter a brief description of what kind of e-learning you're looking to create. You would upload your source document, which is a Word document in this case, and then you would enter learning objectives. And then from here, you would generate generate an outline. I'm going to skip that step, but this is what you would see next if you generate. And you first get a preview of the content outline that you can edit and move things around, suggest changes. You can sort of fully edit the module outline before you commit to generating content to populate that outline. But once you're happy with what the outline looks like, then you generate all the pages within the outline. And that's like sort of this other process. I'm going to skip that because it takes a 5 to 10 minutes to generate the whole module. Once you've generated all the content within your outline, then it's time to bring the generated content into our CMS. And the idea is from here, it takes minutes to generate a module, but from here you have access to our CMS and all of the AI support that's in our CMS, and also the collaborative authoring tools that are in our CMS. So I can show the night shift module just to keep things consistent. But this is what that generated content looks like now. So we are in the editing view, and this is a introductory page. It has a welcome message, it has learning objectives, it has a box describing the estimated duration of the module. And then it has a series of instructional pages. And the instructional pages utilize the block templates that we were looking at. This is a narrative block. This is another narrative block. This is a compare and contrast block. So it's comparing challenges versus advantages with an accordion interaction. This is a step-by-step block. So this is describing how to prepare for night shift using a carousel interaction, but a procedural explanation. And here are some more. This is a categorical block with a accordion dropdown. So I can access different topics and subtopics with the accordion. This is the view that we're in right now is the editing view, which is why you're seeing all of the sort of editing tools on the side. But if we go to quickly a preview of what the final module looks like, you'll see it's a much cleaner view. This is what the final exported e-learning would look like in somebody's LMS or system. There are, sort of clear pages, interactions. Here is a scenario. Looks like the icons have dropped out, but this is a scenario with a dialogue, and then it prompts the learner to consider what would you do in this situation. Here's another procedural explanation. This one has accordion dropdowns. This is a card-based layout that shows, again, more topics and subtopics. Um, I'm going to spend a few minutes just looking at showing some of the AI tools within our CMS. And then I'm aware of the time, and I think we've got about 15 minutes left. So I want to save enough time for Q&A. But as I said earlier, the idea with our system is that you generate content first with our course builder, but then you can bring all that content, AI generated content, into our CMS to continue working with your team to perfect, to fine tune, to customize. So that's where we come up with that from 8 weeks to 2 weeks. We're assuming that there's going to be, that it's magical, but it's not magic, that there is some level of editing and that is needed, and content development that will be needed with your generated content. And GT has a very powerful collaborative AI assisted editorial tool that we're looking at here. So I'm just going to show some of the AI tools here. I can, as an editor, make any changes, just it's as simple as, making changes directly within these blocks. We have AI at the block level. So here I can open up an AI editing tool, and I can make this block 25% longer. I can prompt and instruct the AI to edit as I wish. You can make it longer, you can change the tone, you can change the focus, you can do anything that you want with AI. This is the newly generated content, and then you can either replace the block. So you started from a block, you can either replace it or you can insert it below the former block, or the source block. So this is the block that we started with. This is the AI edited block. I'm going to quickly show a couple more AI tools. So we have a number of our block templates are AI, are plugged into AI in our CMS. So I can drag and drop, for example, an introduction block, and I can just, I can set that it should look at the entire page, and then I can generate an introduction based on the page content with AI. We have a number of sort of editorial blocks like this that my team of learning designers has set all the parameters for, and we've designed these experiences already. So here is an introduction that is based on the page content. I'll quickly show maybe a learning activity. So, and we've actually just redesigned a lot of these learning activities. So this will be an old design, but this is now generating one of these gamified learning activities based on page content. Hopefully this will go quickly enough. But it's scanning the page content and generating a mini game based on the page content. And of course, it's going to take more than more than the time. So, Rob, I think given that we're got 10 minutes left, I think maybe we can, while we're waiting for this, we can switch over to the Q&A and see if there have been some questions coming in.
Yeah, one of the questions that we've been asked is how did you come up with the prompting that you had showed in that course builder? How did you develop your audience and the other prompt pieces?
With the right, so yeah, so the prompting for different template systems. So for example, for the for the foundations template, We have made some assumptions about our users, like they are novice users, they are new to the subject area. So we want to keep things simple. We want, a simple set of interaction types. We want to really focus on explaining and introducing new concepts. We want practice because it's important in an introductory context to include a lot of drill and practice content within those experiences. And then, so we sort of took into account the intended audience, but then we also designed based on our four pillars, our four learning design pillars. So that sort of guides the way that we set up our structures. Uh, and the design, this sort of specific design decisions we make within our blocks are all sort of checked against our four pillars rubric. I will say another thing though is one of the challenges has been to successfully pair different types of interactions with those underlying text structures. I think what you see in a lot of other systems is the systems will sort of transform source content into interactives, but not really considering the text structures and pedagogical intent of the content. You'll see sort of, flip cards being created based on any old content, and you get to a place where it's sort of generating interactivity for interactivity's sake. And we're very careful about that. Like we don't want that's not successful from a learning design perspective. We want to be very thoughtful about how we pair interactions like flip cards, like carousels, etc., with the underlying to best match those underlying text structures, whether they're it's sequential information or compare and contrasting information or procedural information. We've set up all these rules in our prompting that match that instruct the AI to sort of scan, identify those text structures, and then best pair those text structures with our interactions. This is just while we're here, because this is now successful. This is an example of an AI generated mini game. So I'm just going to go into preview for a second and show what that looks like. But the AI assistant has generated this sort of matching card quiz um, based on the page content. This is all, AI generated, and it's flowed into our mini game block that the learning designers here have pre-designed. So it has feedback, it has sort of a scoring system. You get these like kind of fun little right and wrong messages, etc.
Another question that we've gotten, Greg, is are we able to plug in our own AI tools into your system?
It's a good question. It depends on maybe what the AI tools are, but Rob, has that question come up with any of your conversations?
Yeah, yeah. So GTCMS is building our AI functionality for interoperability. So if you have AI tools or transformation processes or context aware AI assistants that you want to use when creating content or im include in the CMS, Greg, if you'll click that AI button on the right-hand side, we've created an interaction space. So this is a place that is built to be interoperable. So we can plug in your specific tools as well as a level of customization in addition to the AI tools that are provided by default from GT.
Mhm. And we're in the process of expanding what's in this space. This is sort of a beta right now, but basically what we're going to enable is all of the block templates that we showed earlier, which is just sort of a subset of what we've actually designed, will be available in this space to be generated in the CMS with AI. So you can sort of drag and drop block templates into the pages, and the AI will generate them for you based on your source content. So that's sort of an exciting uh, thing
Yeah.
that's
Uh,
coming.
one thing that I want to correct is that the AI functionality is not in a beta state. It's not a beta. Some of those newer features that are being added will be
Right.
added as a beta before full release.
Yeah.
We have another question that just came in. Is there user-generated data that is usable from the courses, such as results from minigames, interactions, and so on?
Hmm. That's a good question about data, uh, uh, scoring and data, and whether we're able to collect that data. So what I think what typically happens, and Rob, please correct me if I'm speaking out of turn, is that the content is typically provided by our customers within their own LMSs, and our exports are SCORM compliant and play well with LMSs. That's typically the way I answer that question, but Rob, did I answer that correctly?
Sure, I'll add more to that. So GT allows for integration of the content through LTI or SCORM packages, several other industry standard formats. So you're able to take the content that you create with the GT CMS, place it where it needs to go for your learners. If there is an objective score attached to those, such as for our AI generated questions, those can will be passed into the grade book of the receiving system. So we've made those transparent. For the other part of that question, right, the mini game and interactions, what you'll want to set up is a specific calls for those. So we have analytics that you can put on Google Analytics, Firebase. You can put additional analytics into the spaces where these interactions are happening to be able to get data on usage within those interactions. But it really comes to the system that is rendering and the system that the learners are using in order to get actionable data from those particular types of interactions or results. Um, we have a question about XAPI compliant. And yes, we are compliant with the various standards and including XAPI when we make an API available.
Mhm. One thing I didn't show was our collaborative tool set. We looked at the AI tool set, but just know that, and this is a whole other topic. Obviously, don't have time to go into detail, but we have all of the content at the block level can be it's designed for collaboration. So you're able to work with your team and to co-author. You can assign, tag your teammates in the directly within the content. You can access a dashboard, which is a sort of visual representation of all of the content with all of the comments. And you can also set up roles for your team members, whether they're editorial roles or management roles or whatever, and set up approvals. So it is a tool that supports collaborative workflows. And just wanted to make sure that that is was clear.
Well, thank you so much for your presentation, Greg. We are at time and have answered the questions that have come in through the presentation. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Yeah, thank you. I will
Yeah.
say that we'll follow up with a handout. And yes, thank you very much. It was great presenting to you all today.